Okay, what I'm about to talk about was said 12 days ago. But hey, like I always somehow say, better late than never, right? We all know Jason Schreir, potato. Now, Jason published a book called Play Nice, and that book was supposed to talk about a lot of just kind of the stuff that's happening at Blizzard and kind of like his work life, I'm guessing. Can't find the original Reddit post where he talks about what the book's exactly about, but it's something along the lines of that. And a lot of stuff came out from that book. Some of the things that ended up coming out was apparently Blizzard developing a mobile game based on Overwatch 2. According to Jason Schreir, Walter Kong is reportedly leading new projects, with one of the initiatives being a mobile version of the franchise. And I can't really find anything else from Overwatch Cavalry, but I know that there was some other stuff they did post about that Jason Schreir did say in his book. Now, we did talk about, you know, the whole potential Netflix series that was being worked on and was cancelled back in 2020. And the thing that I mentioned just now is not even the thing that I am annoyed about, even though that is, you know, annoying, because like, why would they do that? Like, the last thing that Overwatch 2 needs is now like a mobile port or a mobile version of the game for people to play. But like I said, that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about a certain tweet that Overwatch Cavalry posted back on the 10th of October. And it's something that I've been meaning to make a video on. So the tweet says that an Overwatch 2 developer admits the game was unfinished to Jason Schreir. Everyone said, "You worked 6 years on this?" No, we worked for 1 year on this. We spent those other years on all the PvE stuff. And Overwatch Cavalry claims that we could read more about it from his book, Play Nice. So just to put into perspective, the Overwatch 2 that we got at season 1 Overwatch 2 debut, was claimed to be an unfinished version of the game that was worked on in a year, and the other 5 years was on everything PvE. Now, obviously, I haven't bought the book, so I can't really dive more into what exactly this means and if it's being taken out of context or whatever. And basically, what I'm about to, you know, give my thoughts and opinions on is just going to be off this statement alone, pretty much. So, what do I think? Just to kind of sum up how I'm feeling, all I'm just gonna say is, what the f is management doing? I'm pretty sure we've all heard about, you know, the development shenanigans that has been happening with Overwatch 2 and the PvE before the games even came out, right? Like with the PvE originally, you know, they took some people from the Overwatch 1 team and then they kept doing that over the years until there wasn't enough devs to be able to run Overwatch 1. They kept pulling those people from Overwatch 1 to work on the PvE, which I would personally think is really bad. And now we have this Overwatch 2 that didn't really, not to say come out the best, but it was definitely not a game that deserved to be called a sequel to, you know, Overwatch 1, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure everyone, you know, would agree with that, or a lot of people at least would agree with that. Like, we can compare Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 and say that, hey, Overwatch 2 did not need to be a thing. They didn't even need to call Overwatch 2 because this is not a sequel at all. Yes, there are drastic changes, right? Went from 6v6 to 5v5. There was a lot of reworks with heroes. Doomfist went from a DPS to a tank. The game is free. You know, there's been a lot of changes, which is like, okay, maybe you can reason those changes with being like a proper sequel. I just think with the way Overwatch 1 is, personally, I don't think that Overwatch 2 deserved to really be called Overwatch 2. It's just a highly reworked Overwatch 1. And I think the even worse thing is that there was absolutely no one that was asking for an Overwatch 2. No one was asking for a sequel, as far as I'm aware. Now, I'm not some kind of like old school Overwatch fan. I'm really not. But as far as I've heard from people who have played Overwatch 1 before, all they asked was just to change the meta up, to change and to balance some certain heroes and stuff, because apparently it's been like the same meta with Overwatch 1 for like so many years, and it was terrible to play, and that's why a lot of people just stopped playing Overwatch, because it eventually just stopped getting updates at all and balance patches and stuff like that, right? So in a sense, it feels like it was a complete waste of time, because no one was asking for a sequel to Overwatch 1. All people were asking for were just updates to the meta, adding stuff, obviously, you know, like the stuff that's happening with Overwatch 2. Just have that stuff just happen with Overwatch 1, where you're releasing new characters, you're balancing stuff, etc, etc. And I think another way to, you know, look at it that is also kind of annoying is that, you know, we have season 1 Overwatch 2 in 1 year. Like, imagine if you gave the team 3 years to work on Overwatch 2. Like, how much better would the game have been if we'd given the devs more time to work on the sequel? There was a lot of things in Overwatch 1 that, you know, didn't come to Overwatch 2, and it didn't really make sense. Like, for example, the on fire effect. Like, that wasn't there for season 1 of Overwatch 2. And I know that there was a bunch of other features from Overwatch 1 that didn't come until later into Overwatch 2, and people were confused. And now that we know that, you know, they spent a year on it, now it makes sense. In terms of game development, spending 1 year to recreate or create a type of sequel to an already existing game like Overwatch 1. Guys, that's not easy at all. Game development takes time, and we're talking about a stereotypical game development setting. You know, this is a AAA game, there's a company behind it, there's going to be managers, there's going to be people that you're communicating with, you're going to have to get approval on some stuff. This isn't like an indie dev, you know, type of setting, right? You can't just be like, oh, I want to add a fish that's able to do 360s and, you know, track through walls, and you can't just make that change. That has to go through like a bunch of people. You gotta have meetings for that. So the fact that, you know, Overwatch 2 came out the way it did in season 1 in a year, I can see it as being impressive from a game development standpoint, but at the same time, I really do wish the devs had more time to be able to, you know, work on it. I think that Overwatch as a franchise is just one of those franchises that has so much potential, but it's been led by just terrible leadership and management. Like, there are terrible decisions being made for this franchise, or maybe not terrible, but not the best decisions. Like, guys, let's be real. Who the hell is asking for an Overwatch mobile port? Like, instead of spending money on this mobile port that nobody's asking for and that nobody wants, let's direct that money more to Overwatch 2 to create more cool stuff. I mean, and I guess you can kind of say the same thing with the PvE. Like, no one really, as far as I'm aware at least, I could be wrong about this, but as far as I'm aware, nobody was really asking for PvE for Overwatch at all. Overwatch, as we know it, was always meant to be a PvE, and I forgot the reason why, but that just did not end up happening, and they made it a live-action multiplayer hero-based game, the Overwatch that we all know. But then whoever was there, I forgot the name, but whoever was there was like, yo, let's revisit the idea of the PvE, and then started doing that, and that was just kind of the downfall of Overwatch. Well, I mean, excluding the sexual harassment charges and, you know, that whole drama. And the reply kind of just resonates with what I said here by CEO Sara. Dev making an incredibly popular PvP game and then immediately ceasing all work on it to make a PvE game until finally getting replaced has to be one of the most insane fumbles of all time. Dude just desperately wanted Project Titan. Project Titan was the name of Overwatch before it became Overwatch. That was kind of the name during development. But yeah, an insane fumble, and there's just more bad decisions that are kept on, you know, being made. Now, obviously, there are some good things about Overwatch 2. Like, I still play the game. It's not like I'm not playing it. And, you know, a recent thing that I thought was super duper cool, you know, there's the new Junkenstein's Labs game mode, and they basically brought like some of the hero talents that were meant to be part of the PvE into the game for this one game mode, right? Except it's not for a PvE, but it's for a PvP setting. And they're called mutations, so there's kind of like that roguelike aspect to it now. And honestly, I've had a lot of fun with the game mode, and I'm glad that they didn't just bin everything entirely. And yeah, they just kind of reuse that asset from there, which is good. It's put some good news into, you know, making this game mode, and the game mode's fun in my personal opinion. I've had some fun with it. We have a whole entire tab dedicated to these missions for Overwatch 2, and we only got one set of missions that you have to spend extra money on. We got invasions, and that was all. It's very unfortunate. But yeah, overall, I'm kind of going in circles now. Basically, terrible management, terrible leadership. Overwatch 2 should not be a thing. We should have Overwatch the PvE. And I think that overall the model of Overwatch 1 wasn't really sustainable long term. Like, you have this live service game where you're only spending a once-off amount to buy the actual game, and then you have access to these loot boxes and you don't really have to spend money. You know, you have that kind of model. In terms of what I think personally, it's gonna run out at some point, which is why, you know, they went with Overwatch 2, making it free and adding a lot of microtransactions, because at the end of the day, microtransactions create sustainability, and overall just does a better job at creating that sustainability that Overwatch 1 didn't have, because it's not like, hey, if you want the skin, you know, you're gonna have to spend some money, or you're gonna have to wait like 3 seasons, which is like half a year, to get the money in order to get like the skin or the battle pass or something. This is not me agreeing with the model. This is just me saying I can see why they would also make Overwatch 2 free and have a bunch of microtransactions, because microtransactions create sustainability, and it allows them to constantly update the game because they're constantly getting money. Overall, I think that's all I have to say. So if you have enjoyed this video, then please do leave a like. That'd be greatly appreciated if you do want to, of course. And also, if you're going to check out my other videos or past streams, or whatever the case may be, then please do subscribe. That'd be greatly appreciated if you do want to, of course. I think overall, if you were going to get an Overwatch 2, I would have at least wanted them to have more time to it. With the debut of Overwatch 2 as a sequel that they worked on for a year, I think it was pretty decent. I just wish that they had more time to be able to cook something. I really wonder how Overwatch 2 would have went if they had more time to work on it. I do have a Twitter and I do have an Instagram. I do have a goal of trying to ratio Mr. Beast over there on Twitter, and in order to do that, I'm going to need more followers over there. And in order to get more followers over there, I'm gonna need more subscribers over here so you know exactly what to do. What do you think about this whole thing with the unfinished version of Overwatch 2 that we got on season 1? Would you have guessed that it was unfinished? Do you think that this whole plan for Overwatch in general was just a terrible idea? Do you think this is the devs' fault or management's fault? Do you agree or do you disagree with what I've said? If so, why? Do you bite your nails? Anything you possibly have to say, you can leave them down in the comments below and I'll probably acknowledge it. And you know what it is, guys. Peace.